Hi everyone, welcome to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon podcast. So this is where I talk to business leaders in Asia. And today we have a special guest with us, Anna Chew. All right, so we actually got connected on LinkedIn quite a while ago. And recently I interviewed her friend, which is Sharon Tan from Iconic. And we talked actually in that interview, we actually did talk about eldercare. In the segment where she talked about what is exciting to her. She said eldercare because of her mom. So today we have Anna Chew with us. So one of my LinkedIn connections. So Anna Chew is the CEO, right, of ReU Living and also Meaningful Life. She is the only eldercare consultant in Malaysia who has 2 fully operational luxury recovery and senior living products. And she is also the keynote speaker for the United Nations Care Program and sought after consultant for senior living and care. So Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Bob.
No problem. So first question I would just like to start these interviews is, what is your favorite Kung Fu movie?
I want to say Kung Fu Panda.
That works too. That works too. That is a great movie.
But actually everything Jet Li. I think he's a really good actor. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone in specific? You're the first one who said Jet Li. All right. We had Jackie Chan, we had Bruce Lee, we had so many, So Jet Li, Once Upon a Time in China, or which one?
No specific. I think when you like an actor, you pretty much follow him all around.
Awesome. Yesterday I had someone who said Donnie Yen, but yeah, Jet Li is a bit old school, but it's a proper martial artist.
Represent the old school industry.
A real Shaolin monk. For the listeners out there, Jet Li actually trained in Shaolin Temple himself, and unlike the other actors who picked up martial arts, he is a real Shaolin monk himself, and then made it big in the movie. So my favorite movie from Jet Li is Once Upon a Time in China. If you watch his movies, it is a real kung fu. It's nothing fake about it. It's not trained, not learned. He is kung fu himself. So thank you, Anna. That is a great choice. Today we have you, and you are the one of the only eldercare consultant in Malaysia. So I'd like to start this off. Our listeners and our audience are fairly new to this topic. So tell me, what is eldercare to you?
Okay, so I think a lot of people have gotten eldercare wrong. Every time I say that, they think about end-of-life care. Oh, they are ill, they are in a wheelchair. And I think, for people to reflect back, if you look at the definition to begin with, it could be anyone about 65 and above, right? That's the general way of classification. And it is literally anyone who has, a lot of people who have retired, they're still active, they're moving around, they're traveling the world because they have so much money after working so hard. They have invested correctly. They want a lifestyle. And I think if you think about retirement and you ask people, hey, Anna, you talk about senior living, people talk about retirement. I say, what does your retirement look like? And I ask you to reflect. And actually they tell me, oh, next time I want to, go on a cruise, because everything is there. You have a doctor on the whatever cruise it is, you have all your meals, entertainment. It's so much fun to retire in that manner. Or I want to buy a piece of land. I retire with my friends, we get care and, it's nice. It's like a resort. How then did people end up in an old folks home? It's got nothing to do with retirement. So I asked that question and I asked people to ponder on it. And this is what we call active seniors. They want a lifestyle. They want to do things. They want to have friends around. They want to enjoy even an evening drink, So nothing wrong with that. And that is what we need to look at to cater to that kind of group of people. And I think if we start to set our thinking right, the eldercare continuum is so wide. It goes from active seniors all the way to end-of-life care. So you ask yourself which category you are in. And so the list of services that are catered to them is actually very wide.
Yes, it is something that is very important. Like you said, it's not just about end of life. It's not end of life care. It's elder care. So after 65 years old. So I know that you're part of a few exciting projects. So tell us, what do you have when it comes to your products at the moment?
Okay, so we have what we call the ReU Living Retirement and Recovery Village. This is in Mikasa Hotel. Mikasa Hotel actually consists of 2 blocks, and we took a dedicated block with our own entrance, and we built it to specs to make sure that we can care for people either in the retirement category or what we call assisted living or post-op recovery. So a lot of times, I think because it's still in its early stages, people don't really want to have that lifestyle in a place like that. They decide to stay at home, have a maid. But this is where, we ask people to think about, how you are living. Even if you stay at home at a certain age and you need help, you can't maintain a place yourself. Just one person can't give you quality of life. And so our focus is on quality of life, which means you need a team to actually execute this. It's a maintenance-free, fuss-free lifestyle. And that's what we are offering here as a lifestyle product. Okay, for retirement. And then when you talk about recovery, what we do is we focus on outcomes, like after a hip surgery, knee surgery, and all that, you go in for our orthopedic care. And this is where we do rehab, in our in-house physio center. And why it's exciting is people actually never thought about the way we want to recover. It's not as easy as, you do surgery, you go home and you'll be all well. I think people don't understand that. If we look at models of care around the world, after surgery, people actually go to step-down care to recover. And this is exactly what it is, but in a very nice, comfortable, luxurious, homely environment. And that's the product that we're putting, before to the market. And it's a product that's never been seen before, Bob, believe it or not. So it's a first of its kind in Malaysia, where people are suddenly learning, I can actually recover, do, my physio, all that, get better, and then go home. And that is what we want it to be like, so people don't continue to have injuries or, have a prolonged chronic illness for the rest of their life.
Yeah. So ReU Care is both a senior living care center and also a post surgery care center as well. So interesting as well, because recently one of my close friends who is around my age suffered a huge injury while playing futsal, and I was supposed to play. And he is moving around a lot, and I don't think it should be, at one of your centers recovering. He does physio, a very big surgery. And I think people are not aware of these options that are around. So it's in Mikasa Hotel, part of Mikasa Hotel, am I right?
Yes, that's right. A whole dedicated block.
Yes. While I was doing research for this interview, I know that ReU Living has its own YouTube channel. So if you want to see what it's like, what are the facilities, and you want to see Anna as well in those videos, do check out their YouTube channel to see what it's like. And Mikasa Hotel, I understand, is at the heart of KL. So many facilities there. So it's something very interesting that Anna is working on. So you mentioned there's a lot of potential. So what do you see when it comes to this type of care that is a industry? So I know that your goal is not just to be in Malaysia, but one of the goals of ReU is to be the leader in Asia, right? So what type of potential do you see in this industry?
Well, I think because people haven't really thought about, the times when they need care as you age. And it really comes down to 2 parts. When you start to slow down and you need assistance, okay, rather than waiting for end of life. Of course, end of life, some people do need it. But also when you are active, there are different kind of services, like you can't really expect any senior to go out and make friends, be friendly, have their own community. And most of the time, I would say, you hear people talk about their parents, it is usually in a manner, oh my goodness, why are they sitting at home watching TV, falling asleep the whole time? And then they wake up for lunch and they fall asleep, watch TV again, and wait for me to come back for dinner. So unless we break that cycle, you are not going to get very healthy seniors in the future. Okay, so I think this is where, models like daycare, I think, will exist, and people have to start to realize, no different from a children's daycare. It is a place where the senior can go to for activities, friends, get their nutrition fixed properly. And so these are, I think, what we see happening, and models of care where they recover, they come out from surgery, because as you age, all kinds of problems happen. And usually they are the ones going for surgery injuries. Having said that, our youngest is actually 30 years old, and he came in because he had a foot sole injury, just like what you mentioned. And, he had no use of his arms, and so he needed assistance. And this is exactly what assisted living is. Where else can they get the service today? So if I ask you, where would someone like that go to get a service? You can't go to a dated old folks home model. It's not relevant to them. Yeah, people go there for end-of-life care. And where else would you go? Nobody wants to stay in a hospital. So you end up not getting care unless you are able to engage someone to care for you at home. Again, like I said, it takes a whole village, it takes a whole team to care for you properly, and you can't do physio at home. You still need to move in and out. So it's so troublesome that at the end of the day, people need to understand that why you go to a place like that is you want to get better, faster, recover, go back to your normal life, rather than you are, kind of winging it, trying to recover on your own, halfway through, taking a longer time than necessary.
Yes, thanks, Anna. So I will share something that is very close to my heart as well. So last year, my grandmother, who was 86, passed away. And before her death, actually, this was what happened. It was she had to do a lot of treatment. She was having difficulty breathing and basically difficulty even just walking because she has very weak heart. So she had to do some type of special treatment in Penang. As a young person, so my uncle who was taking care of her and also my mom were not aware of things like even Airbnb. I said, because she had to do treatment in Penang and my mom was in Taipei and my uncle was in Ipoh, right? So what happened was we had to chauffeur her from Taipei, Ipoh, every time she had to do a weekly treatment. So being close, that time she was very, very weak. So it was not good for her to travel. And the end of the day, we went during her treatment, one of the weeks when she traveled up and down to Ipoh, she passed away in her sleep in Ipoh, right? So even my uncle was not aware of things like Airbnb. They are not even willing to spend for things like Airbnb. I said, get an Airbnb close to the hospital, and to them it's not something that they are open to, even Airbnb. But my question to you from that sharing is that, why are there no, I'm not sure, but in my view, why are there not more of these, centers or not more of these facilities out there?
In terms of recovery, right?
Yeah, recovery and maybe even for elders to just like we young people like co-living spaces, like if you watch the episode with Sharon, I talked to her about co-living spaces, which is the same thing, but for me, people like me, but why are there not more of these centers for people who are elders?
Actually, it's so funny, Bob. You mentioned it, and that's what we've introduced to the market. We've actually introduced co-living spaces. So I think in the past, the problem with the old models is that, halls in a home have been turned into it. We are not a home because we don't believe in turning a residential home into this care, right? There are not more of this because people always tag a certain very low value because they only use such services when it's end-of-life care. I have to go back there. And so when you share a hall sleeping next to each other, in a squalid nursing home, it's very cheap, right? And so people always think of these kind of services as, being those kind. You tell any old person that, in case you need to recover, we are going to send you to ReU Living, all that. And they say, for old people, they will cry thinking that they are going to be sent to an old folks home. And unfortunately, those were the models that have existed so long that people only think of that. And that's why I think people didn't know how to create anything different. And that's why it's a very innovative product that we've put out to market. It's the first of its kind because we feel that times have changed and people need to look at new products that really is needed and wanted and not looked at with, so much fear, disdain, or like, it's going to be really bad. And we want people to want the product, which is why when we first created it, I always explain how a lot of my products are created with a lot of design thinking. So we say, firstly, we have to remove the stigma. And that's why we do not want to provide end-of-life care. And people who come in here can see that, hey, people are actually healthy. How come when I come into this space, it's full of life, full of active people, and that's why we've changed the industry. So I think it's a matter of the market not wanting to pay a certain price because they don't understand the product. They think it's all generic and the same. It's like, during recovery, there is efficiency and efficacy, no different from taking a certain supplement and saying, oh, I'm taking a supplement versus this supplement really works. So what is it that you want? That's what we ask people.
Yes, that is the bullseye, the stigma. I think in most Malaysians, I think if you say, like, because of the Petronas ads also, like, last time there's this Chinese New Year Petronas ads, oh, I'm leaving, there's this ad, I'm at the elder center, and then oh, my son come and pick me up. So like,
Yeah.
it's a stigma that we don't, especially Chinese, we don't send our even most Malaysians, like, we don't send our elderly to outside our homes. It's a big stigma. We have to house them in our homes. And that was actually one of the reasons why my grandmother's health deteriorated, because she was very lonely at home. It was post-COVID, so she could not meet her friends. Before COVID, she was very active. She'd go out, meet her friends, eat dinner, whatever. They need community. So she had no access to community besides her phone. Because she's not allowed to leave the house. So that's what happened. Did you have any challenges during the COVID times?
I think COVID was a leveler for a lot of things, when we opened, COVID was still not considered an endemic, right? So it was still quite prevalent. People were very, very worried, and especially you talk about seniors, everybody is always very afraid to, have any of them catch it. And so we had to deal with special ops, like, how do we do our SOPs? We have to lock down, ensure the family members couldn't go up to the rooms. And when we implement things like that, people are upset. They always insist on their right. When they are paying customer, they will say, oh, it's not fair and all that. But at the same time, if I let someone else go up and they say, oh, why you let other people go up, but they themselves wanted to go up to the rooms or mingle in the members hall and things like that. So I think definitely COVID is challenging. But COVID was even more challenging, unfortunately, for the elderly, because of that isolation. Bob, I think your grandma is not just the only one. We saw a lot of people deteriorate. I have a client here that used to be my client before. He went to my daycare for my previous investment and the other place. And then, when he came back again, he had deteriorated significantly because they were isolated. They don't have company. And that's why, the fact that we have a community, and so we challenge people to rethink the whole idea of having your senior at home with a maid. That isn't a community, right? That's not quality of life for them. So when you talk about, Chinese like to use the word hao-sun, filial piety and things like that, actually you are not doing them a favor because you're not giving them the best care.
Yes, 100% agree with what you just said. So, okay, so let's move on to something lighter. So today I just published an interview, was my episode 2. So I talked to Dr. Mazlan, who is an expert of IoT and smart cities. Okay, so one of the things he mentioned is that he, in terms of IoT, there is progress being made in Eldercare. So he is the founder of Favriot, one of the IoT platforms in Malaysia. So in terms of technology or in terms of IoT, what is the innovation that you want to see? Maybe not in what you do, but what is the technological innovation you want to see when it comes to Eldercare?
Okay, so it's one that actually I'm very close, which is very close to my heart. I know that not everyone will take our service. They still want to stay at home. You can't beat the comforts of home. That I get. And so we need to keep everyone safe. We truly, truly care for them. And so in order to keep them safe, I think there needs to be a product that, acts like a guardian at home. So there have been many out there. I myself have a watch that is able to track, for example, if I fall and alert people, things like that, right? But I think it comes down to, if you look at it, technology is technology. It's the support services that are going to keep them safe, right? Like in an emergency, they're fallen. If I'm overseas, who is going to rush there to care for them at 3 a.m. in the morning? So you have to think about it. When you come to eldercare, it's actually a service, and so the technology needs to combine with all these things. And I think it's going to be exciting if we see a product that does that at home. CCTV itself is not enough because it is highly dependent on someone else monitoring it. Movement you can read wrongly, and that's why I've seen a lot of products now with AI and all that alerts you if someone falls. So I think that's quite interesting to have home monitoring.
Yes. So it could be in the form, like I was thinking about smartwatches. Even your mobile phone is actually a similar device. So yes, I think that is something we need to look forward to. Are you in the midst of developing, or what are you doing in terms of these?
Well, I think interestingly enough, a tech founder found me and he showed me his product, and then he said, "Hey, I need to work with you because I really don't understand how seniors live, what they need, how to keep them safe, and all that." So we talk about behavioral patterns. So we are in the midst of actually trying to co-develop a product together, and I think it'll be quite interesting because then it'll help a lot of seniors. But cost is always an issue. I think it is the alternative cost of also just having a watch, or putting a CCTV, which I know a lot of us do for our family. But we have to understand as well, seniors, they are quite irritated. They also have their own freedom. They want their own independence. To feel like they are being tracked is also, I would say, sometimes a bit disrespectful of their daily living.
Yeah. So yeah, I remembered when my grandmother was here, we had to ask her to do tests every day to check her oxygen level. So if we had a tool that syncs to an app, things like that, that would be very useful. All right. So before we wrap up the first part of the interview, last question, so what is your message? So this interview will be out there on LinkedIn and many other platforms. What do you want to send out there to, Asians and Malaysians out there when it comes to elder care?
I think with eldercare, the bit that you don't want to save money on, there's only one time that you need to spend on them, which is a post-op care. You will give them quality of life and many, many years ahead. Don't stinge on that. If you have spent money on an operation, make sure they fully recover from that op by going through proper rehab, getting proper care in a place like ours.
Yes, that is so important. I will be a bit crude here. So why be stringent when people are alive and spend money on the funeral? Exactly. I am very angry when it comes to this. Why spend money on the funeral? Like, this is a very typical Thai Chinese thing. Like they are very stringent when the person is alive. I don't spend money on this, spend money. Then you spend money on the funeral. What is the use of that to me? So so anyway, that wraps up the first part. So thank you, Anna. Right. So Anna, so now we will move to the second part of the interview where we talk about the hidden dragon. So we talk about hidden opportunities. We talk about a lot about elder care and post-op care in part one. So let's now talk about what are you excited about in the future. And this is a part where I also contribute. I also jam a bit. So maybe I would say let's start from elder care first, all right. So I know you are a pioneer in elder care in Malaysia, but so what countries do you see is doing very well when it comes to elder care?
Well, Singapore, because they, have all these policies and the government looks after them. They've got all these products. They've got a cohesive thing where they even worked on transportation, housing. Everyone is, in the ministry is also looking at it. So I think that's something admirable. But of course, they have a product that comes under, the Ministry of Health. It will always look a bit clinical, and that's where we get to thrive, if you ask me personally.
Oh yeah, it really needs to come from the government, unfortunately. But private sector does its best. But if it comes from the government, like I know, in Singapore they have things like Elder Shield, things like that. Because I work with a lot of financial consultants there, so I know Elder Shield, and it is something very important. It comes from the government first, and then the private sector can supplement. So that is something very important. So I hope any government officials listening to this should put in more emphasis on these So yeah, anything that you're working on or excited about recently?
Yeah, so I think, you know, we cannot be in this industry without wanting to create social impact. So social impact to me is very, very important. Whatever we do today goes beyond just a business, right? We are putting together a very good product and we want to keep doing more things that help people. So one of the things I discovered recently is how seniors, when they age, they actually think it's normal to be in a wheelchair, to start to lose strength in their legs. And after working with subject matter experts, you know, whether it's the physiotherapists, you know, it's doctors and things like that, I've come to realize that, hey, actually, these things can be avoided. And so we began a pilot test recently, just last week, we concluded it. It's called Freedom from Wheelchair. Okay, so what we wanted to do was ensure that people never get into a wheelchair. And we started doing this with a new tech that we are going to bring in. And so we had a trial, you know, someone come in and do all these tests to see the strength in their legs. After 3 sessions of our program, the person can now do sit to stand, have a range, you know, and all that, and he could start to walk around. So I think there's hope in, you know, doing social impact, because the more people remain mobile, it is actually less costly for families. So that gets me really excited about, you know, wanting to do something that can change people's lives.
Yeah, so I perfectly know what you mean. I actually, one of my challenges at the moment is to get my parents to physio, even though they have no problem. Actually, they have some problems. But anyway, I myself, I'm in my mid-30s. I've been to physio many times because I play futsal. We can listen to this on the episode I did with Sharon. I did tell her, I said, you know, it's a correlation. Every time I go play futsal, it's a lot of factors, because I'm not so active in nowadays compared to when I was much younger. So every time I play futsal, 1 week after, I definitely pay a visit to a physio. It doesn't have to be something serious. It's not that I am limping or I cannot walk, but I just see the physio to release a lot of tension in the muscles, or just for recovery, just to put in. So I regularly visit the physio. And I think it's something where, but it's a challenge for me to get my parents to do it. And I am, even when my grandmother was alive and she had difficulty walking, and it's very hard for me to be, as a Chinese family, you know, I'm also very traditional. I watch Jet Li movies, so it's a challenge for me. It's something that I cannot intrude into cannot trespass into my rights. I'm the grandson, you know, I cannot insist, oh, we must get the grandmother to this, you know, the sons need to do this. My own parents, okay, might have more say, I can kidnap them. But so there, yeah, this is something I think, I'm not sure why not more people are doing this. I'm so young, I go to physio for various reasons. So it's good to hear that this is coming up. I live at the Hub SS2, and there's this physio center, used to be a gym. I just forgot the name, but they raised a lot of funds, and now they are in a lot of places in KL and PJ, and doing rehab and physio stuff more for young people. So that is something that I see a huge growth area as well. So yeah, interesting to know. Yes, if actually there are so many, there's a huge opportunity when it comes to this. I don't know why they don't go and see a physio. Actually, all people cannot walk when they have difficulty walking.
Actually, it's true. In fact, you know, believe it or not, a lot of surgeries can be avoided by just going to physio. I wish people knew that. That's a cost savings tip.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, a lot of so when I go to physio, they teach me a lot of exercises. They tell me, so like my recent one that I went to, because of COVID, I exercise much lesser, you know, because you just don't get to exercise. So my legs actually deteriorated, so I lost a lot of muscle in my quads. So when I went back to futsal, it what to say, they said it overworked my hamstring because my quads had no muscle, so all the
Overcompensation.
overcompensation happened in my hamstring, so I had a lot of problems. So now I know once I visit the physio, it's also preventative. So every day now I'm doing stretches, I'm doing exercises on my quads, things like that. Sorry, I sound like old person, being a young person and old person, right? So no other people my age knows all these things. One, I do. So I'm doing exercises on my quads. I'm doing stretches every day. Like if you visit a physio, it's like knowledge. They teach you to do all these exercises, and it's very preventative. So next time, now I'm more active. When I play futsal, I don't have to see a physio anymore, and I'm aware like, okay, this happened. Oh, this this has something to do with this, so I better go and check this out. So yeah, you are absolutely right. A lot of surgeries could be prevented. And the biggest risk for people my age is exercise, like it's futsal, mainly. Just to let you know, like, so my friend was hospitalized because of futsal, because of bad surfaces. So in Malaysia, we have a lot of futsal courts, but a lot of underdevelopment. So a lot of they just put a cement and then they call it a futsal court. So actually that is wrong. Even badminton courts are not supposed to be just cement. It will be a very injury causing thing. So when I hear people say, I go play badminton, I'll actually check out their Google photos to see, is this a proper, it makes a huge difference, as you know, in which you'll be someone who know huge difference in the material they use for the courts. If it's just cement, I tell you, it's very bad news.
Yeah.
So it's very bad news. Yeah. So good to share. And I just before we continue the recording, that you live in PJ, and I know that you also say in your mission statement that you are going to be number one in Asia for ReU Living. So, and what are your plans for, let's say, the rest of after ReU? Are you planning to have more outlets, or are you planning to expand outside of Malaysia?
Yeah, so we're going to expand within Malaysia first, and really develop the market correctly. And then once people see the models and they see that it's duplicable, then they understand that, hey, this is an operator that actually, can be depended on, because their quality of care, quality of service, their level of service, the way the outcomes are, very consistent, and people are talking about it. Then from there, you develop a brand value that people want to buy into. So I think that will develop us as we need to build the foundation first. Yeah.
I see a lot of opportunity. Like I said, Penang, even in Penang Valley, there is so much opportunity as well. And besides this, are you looking into other businesses?
I think just the product itself hasn't even fully developed. The market that we target actually is medical tourism. Our product works beautifully as a place for medical tourists, and we've had a lot since the borders have opened and people are starting to come back. And they, in the past, actually what happens is after their surgery, the only place they can go to is to stay in a hotel, and that doesn't make sense because no one in a hotel knows how to care for them, right? So this model actually works, and I think this is another area that we are starting to look into, starting to jointly build our expertise with other partners.
All right, good to hear that. So I hope you expand very soon, and I think you're at the stage where awareness is key, that more people need to know what is this in the first place. And once people experience it more, then you can grow and expand to more outlets. Interesting, in our earlier conversation, you said that you met a developer that was developing a new tech. So this is my view on this. This is my view on startups in Malaysia. So recently we had a few science and technology ministers who said that we want to have our own Malaysian unicorn, which I think is good. But unicorns need to happen in the seed. That's what I think. So from what I see in Malaysia, and I'm a small business myself, from what I see in Malaysia, there's very little help to the seeds. That means there's to the initial stages of a startup. Even when a lot of startup ideas out there that I hear when I join events are startups that don't make money, but that is fine. But you need people to fund this type of startup. It can be, developing devices for senior care. It can be developing things for agriculture. But what happens in Malaysia, my experience is that they don't get funding unless it's monetizable, unless they can see profit. And you don't get unicorns unless you get a lot of seeds. Yeah, that is my point of view. And in Malaysia, especially when I see a new business, it's very hard for them to get funding unless they are more mature and they see, revenue and things like that, which I think is wrong. You should be funding more new ideas, more seeds, even though you don't see the revenue model yet. I think you should start there, and then only you get your unicorn. Unicorn happens not because you fund a lot of businesses that are profitable. That's not a unicorn. The miracle needs to happen when you don't even see what this is. So any thoughts on that?
I think it goes both ways. I mean, to be fair, because I also, am part of the ecosystem. I sit as a startup founder, mentor, both sides of the coin, spoken to lots of VCs and stuff like that. I think VCs are very antsy about putting money in when, like you said, but at the same time, I've also seen a lot of business ideas that are really unfundable. That's the reality. I think then everyone who thinks that, we should get access, and I can tell you, I mean, it's all out there. A lot of them really don't deserve to even be out in the market, shouldn't we? But I think this is where a unicorn is quite special. You don't just suddenly, because I give you money, you turn into a unicorn either, right? It has to really overcome a lot of obstacles. And I think if funding is an obstacle and you can, overcome it, I think this is just one of it. I mean, there's, access to the market, there's creating a market. Do people want it? A lot of times, is there such a big demand? So you have to ask yourself all these things. I think people need to get it right before they get funded. Of course, other countries have better access to funding. I agree, and they get funded in larger amounts that I've seen. And I think that's quite sad because we do have some good products in Malaysia. But both sides, I think the VCs are also not really putting their money, enough money everywhere.
Yeah. I get what you mean, because my background is marketing. So as a marketer, like the question I asked you, what potential you see. So I generally will look into a business. I don't see the business model. So because I have to market, so I will look at these questions. I don't see, but I do see the tech. Sometimes I see the tech. Sometimes I see the potential or things like that. So it's a mix and balance, but I do feel there's a lot more opportunity in this at the moment. Of course, the hype is gone. So I do hope that, like your venture that you're building with the device for eldercare, that should really develop. And sometimes, like you said, it is not just funding. It is, what I see is the challenge to be in the game. If you're in the game for long enough, you will succeed. So you need to stay. Sometimes it's not about growth. Sometimes you need to stay in there. Like, for example, COVID, you just stay there until COVID passes. You need to stay in there. Sometimes that's what I think. When I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and they have challenge, I said, yes, maybe you not earn a lot of money now, but you need to stay. Just stay first.
Yeah.
Stay. It's just timing. It's sometimes just timing. So
I mean,
resilience
is actually one of the pillars of success. I think they've done a study recently, and they found that was the ingredient that keeps them successful. So, to be honest, Bob, I mean, a great example, right? My first product for a recovery resort started because it was during COVID, and I said, the hotels all are empty. So finally, they are ready to talk to me, and you know what? They were.
Oh, that is so good. Yeah. It's really about the timing. At that time they're open to new revenues. I remember a lot of hotels, they don't see this now. A lot of hotels wanted to become a co-working space. I remember a few hotels renting for work in the day for 100 ringgit. But yeah, it's something interesting, and yeah, it's resilience is very important. All right, so Anna, thanks so much for doing this interview, Red. I hope I can get this message out there. It's something that I am passionate about, as you can see, about eldercare as well. You can watch the interview with Sharon where I talk about this as well. But really something we're passionate about. And unfortunately, my grandmother has passed away last year. We couldn't don't know about these options. And I hope more people listening to this will explore this. We are an aging population in all countries around Asia, and I hope that more people will be open to options like this, and I hope there will be more of these solutions coming around, and I hope you succeed to grow this and get more reuse around as well. And hopefully when I am older, so I'm a very social person, so I'll need things like these as well. So yeah, so before we go, I always like to end with this question. So who else would you recommend to be on this podcast?
Oh, I will recommend quite a few of my female entrepreneur friends. And probably I'm going to throw it to Simone
Oh,
Lee. So I think you should definitely reach out to her.
what does she do?
She's actually very well known in the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, okay. She is an entrepreneur like yourself.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So definitely reach out to her. Anyone else?
Let me see. Well, there are so many good ones, but I would do Simone, and then I'm sure she has other people to recommend.
Thank you. Yeah, no worries. If you come across anyone, so this, as I said, this podcast is to share stories like yourself, Asian business leaders out there. There is really I can challenge you. Go and search for on Spotify CEO Malaysia, CEO Hong Kong. Besides BFM, which is a radio station, or YouTube, you won't find a lot of podcasts or a lot of media besides BFM, or even on YouTube, talking about what we just talked about, raising funds, or talking about eldercare, about business models, about challenges in business, things like that. There is not a lot of content. I started this podcast from my own need, so I wanted to listen, and I created this podcast, and a good way to meet people as well. So thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast.
Thank you so much, Bob. Keep up the great work.